Welcome to Remember Your Source. I'm Julie Delene, and I'm here with Elaine Rasmussen, a colleague, a friend. It would be great to introduce yourself to the audience a little bit more and what you're doing, which is, I know, extremely powerful work.
So, Social Impact Strategies Group, we are a certified B Corp. We have 3 buckets of work. We do social impact advising and evaluation. So what that means is we'll work with an organization or an investor or on a project to either help identify what's the social impact that organization or project wants to have, or it could be retroactively of like, hey, we've done this project and we want to measure and evaluate the social impact of the project once it's completed, or an investor portfolio once it's been executed. The second bucket of work is around entrepreneurship development, which is how you and I had gotten connected. And the third bucket of work is we offer education to investors, wealth advisors, and entrepreneurs throughout the year. And as part of that, we do an annual conference called Connect Up, where we are bridging the 180 degrees of separation between local investors and entrepreneurs from underestimated communities. So people of color, women, immigrants, queer, transgender, Native American, any rural folks, so anybody who necessarily needs an extra access to networks and information and resources and capital, we try to facilitate that.
Wow, excellent. Amazing work and so powerful. And I've watched you grow and take this animal on from the time that we sat down and started to talk about our visions, and big thinker and change maker in our community. I'm so grateful. But here we are now. We're in a place of always creating. Every moment's a new creation, and we're always having to let go of old conditioning and old things that bother us. So these mindful moves, we just play with this as a way of having a conversation and digging in deeper. And so this one to open, this one is to identify a person who bothers you, and why does this person bother you? And then look into, be curious with that forgiveness process. What would that entail? So who comes to mind?
Well, our president comes to mind. Perfectly frank, and I know that might be a little volatile.
I see the thing that you're talking about with who bothers you, and we can clump it all into Trump, but it's overall there's this white supremacy, male supremacy, this attitude that is just blind to what's going on with the people around them and the relatives, that we're all connected. We're all feeling that relative. That's a tough one to do.
It is tough, but once again, if you strip it all away, it's fear and it's change. And we as human beings, we're not equipped for that.
Right.
It's not in our DNA to change. We don't like change. I don't care who you are. I think there are some of us who do it better, but we as human beings, we like to do things the way we know how we've become accustomed to. And if you are a white male and the balance of power is shifting, where does that leave you? And unfortunately, they have not figured out that the way to move past this is to ask questions.
Yes.
And so what we need to model it. 2, I think we do need to still call out bad behavior.
Yes.
And 3, also show an alternative path. And show so I was at a conference recently, and it was a lot of finance people, and one of the speakers actually at the end of the evening, it was a white woman who spoke about this, and it was great because what she said in her comments was, and white guys, no, we are not trying to remove you from the table. We are actually trying to build a bigger table, right? But even still, it's still scary. I had a conversation with my husband and talking about the work that I do and how redistribution of wealth comes up. And he shared with me, he's like, well, no, people think that you want to go into their bank account and take their money. I said,
Right.
really? And
Right.
he said, and, you know, he's a white male, and I'm like, really? They
Yeah.
think, I go, first of all, that's illegal. Like, nobody could do that. But really, people think that. He's like, oh yeah, absolutely, people think that. I'm like, okay, well, if that's your reality, if that's what you think,
Right.
well, of course, I'd be petrified too. And that might cause me to move to do some behavior that under other circumstances I would not normally engage in, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna move towards preserving all of those thoughts and ideals, no matter the cognitive dissonance between my head and my heart, right?
Yes. Right. And that's exactly, so the forgiveness process is to reconnect our heart in the midst of you know, areas that look completely insane. And so to come back to that place of how do you keep your heart open and how do you stay, I mean, this is the point of the show, how do we stay in our passion and do what we know is right for the greater whole, for the bigger, for all of our relatives.
And I think there's two pieces to that. One is going back to, I think, my beginning comments of, you have to take care of yourself. And if you feel that you're overwhelmed, then you need to do something about that. Whether it's therapy, whether it's taking a breath, whether it's checking out for a day. I've often told women, I'm like, take a staycation, go get a hotel and
Right.
stay in the hotel by yourself for one night, without kids, without a partner, without whatever. Just check out for a day if you have the privilege to do so. But also going back to those three questions that I asked, which is, you know, how can I grow? What can I give? And what can I celebrate? Because you know what? The world is going to be crazy. It's probably going to be crazy. It's always been crazy. It's going to stay crazy. It's just a matter of what level of crazy that we're dealing with. Now, in my lifetime, this is an exponential crazy that I've not seen. But we've always had crazy, right? I, as a woman of color, I've always had to deal with racism. I've always had to deal with sexism. So it's always going to be there to one degree or another. So really the only way that, whether you're a social movement person or you're a podcaster or you're sweeping floors, if you need to check out, whatever that means, check in. And if you are having like overwhelm, seek help, whether it's spiritually, whether that's medically, whether, like, we are fragile. We are strong, but we are fragile. We're like a velvet glove. And I think people forget that. I think we get caught up in, we're the highest on the food chain, and so as that we have these unrealistic expectations of what we should be able to handle mentally, physically, myself included. I have to remember, I'm like, you know what, I'm still a human being. I'm an aging human being. And so what I could and tolerate and do, I can't to that level anymore. So that doesn't make me a weak person. It just means that these are my limitations right now, and being okay with our limitations. But we have a culture that does not celebrate that. You're designated as weak, you're designated as inferior. And so I think it's shutting out the noise, you know, shutting out a lot of the noise to be able to be like, no, I'm okay. And we don't have enough places and spaces that tell us that we're okay the way that we are, with our flaws. But we also have an opportunity to those if we choose to, and that will make us a better person.
Yes. So this part of doing this mindful process is to keep us grounded with our area, our environment, things that are supporting us. And so this next card, which is about your emerging vision from this place. So look around your room and find something that draws your attention and feels pleasant and feels good. What desires is this bringing to mind, and how does it represent your vision moving forward?
So I think this is another sort of thing. So actually, like, I have like lots of little things over here, lots of beautiful. I like to keep beautiful things around me. So everything is beautiful. I'm constantly reminded of beauty. So I wouldn't say that there's one thing. That's a really hard thing, because all of it's beautiful. And so I don't have to look very far. I guess I like to keep it. I like to always keep something in my field of vision that
Yeah.
has some beauty to it. So even on my phone, I have like this mandala. So I'm never
Nice.
far away from something that makes me feel good.
So let's focus in on the mandala because that's an excellent image to draw upon. But how does that represent your vision moving forward?
I think it probably represents my vision that it's complicated.
Complicated and it's beautiful. It's
it's
networked.
it's beautiful, it's complicated, but there is an organization to it,
Yes.
right? That it's not there's this organized chaos about it.
Yes.
And that the work that I do particularly is there's layers,
Yes.
and it is circular.
Yes.
And as soon as we get to one spot, we're going to have to like start over again.
Right.
So.
That's exactly that's excellent. If you look at that mandala at this point, I mean, I hope that inspires you. I find that there's an image that speaks to me at different times along my journey. I can stay a little bit more focused and stay attuned to what is it that I'm creating and why am I doing this and what are the reasons behind it, and all those things that help, because there are so many competing ideas. Well, it's been so good to have you on the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. And thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I think it's really important, and we need to replicate it and get it out there, because I think the world is hungry for this right now.
Excellent. Thank you, Elaine. So good to have you on the show. I feel like there's more to do between, as I always do every time I meet with you. So let's keep talking.
Awesome. Thank you.